Let's take a look at our Apple phone here. It is officially 5:02, and we are going to call to order the Dunstable Board of Selectmen for December 7th, 2023, Pearl Harbor Day today, right? In our agenda, I'm going to ratchet through. This is a fairly lengthy agenda, but they're all relatively short items in terms of content. Call the meeting order, which we did. We're going to have public comments. Meeting minutes approval, appointment of Bryn Durno, presentation from NEMCOG, creation of a master plan implementation committee, a LIP review process, appointment of Andrew Wall to the Insurance Advisory Committee, petition to the General Court to change the name of Board of Selectmen to Select Board, our flag raising policy, which we currently do not have one. Item number 11 is a community outreach, salary compensation to town administrator, tax classification hearing will start at 6. Relocation of textile bins, excuse me, town administrator's report, old business and new business. Karen, you have, what you have to leave at what time?
Like 6:30.
Okay. All right. Mr. Meehan has to go join another meeting at Swallow, I think, right?
Gonna go hang with our PTO friends.
Okay, so we're gonna get started. Any public comments? Not seeing any. Next, I'm actually gonna take a couple of these out of sequence to help out some others. Item 4 will come up next on the list, which is the appointment of Bryn Durno to the permanent position of town clerk. Bryn has been in the capacity of an interim town clerk for what, a few months?
A little while.
A little shorter than that.
Seems like it's been a few months.
It does.
Yeah. So do we have a motion?
I have no questions, and thank you for your continued service. And so you can go to your birthday festivities.
I did have just a little update on some things. First, I want to thank Jason for the opportunity of being a part of Dunstable. I feel like over the past month or so, Sue and I have just really found a way of meshing and working really well together.
Great.
And streamlining all the processes. So I have brought online payments to the town clerk's office for vital records and renewing dog licenses.
Cool.
We've started kind of creating some new forms that are a little bit simpler in the process, but we are encouraging people if they can order the items online. It's usually a 24 to 48 hour turnaround. Mr. Dave Peace, he's part of Pepperell Community Media. He created a dog database for me and Pepperell, maybe like 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he's copied it into a Dunstable type form.
Oh, wow.
So the new dog database will eliminate the Excel spreadsheet that was just kind of outdated. And we'll be able to print reports to tell us who hasn't licensed. So when rabies certificates come in from different vet clinics, we'll be able to know who doesn't have dog licenses. We'll be able to provide reports to the police department, tag numbers, if there was a stray dog. Microchip numbers can also get entered into it. We have utilized some ARPA money and ordered 2 poll pads. So we'll be eliminating the paper voting list.
Mm-hmm.
So at the most recent election, the special election on the 30th, I spent some time with the election workers and I brought 2 poll pads from Pepperell that were in training mode. They were all very afraid, but I feel like I've really solidified it with them that it is so much, it's easier, but it's also more consistent. So they were each able to spend some time on the poll pads in training mode and, be able to see different errors and stuff.
Cool.
And I ordered a ballot drop box. That should hopefully be in the next 6 to 8 weeks. I mailed out all the censuses. I printed them, and I also included dog license applications to each of the households. So we mailed out 1,293. And so far today, we have a little over 200 already back. So thinking ahead, I'm trying to do things in Dunstable, maybe, 3-4 weeks earlier than what I do them in Pepperell, so that I can get Dunstable done, and then when Pepperell's crazy, Dunstable will already be taken care of.
A little forecasting.
Yeah. And we have already done 40 dog tags in the new dog database, so pretty happy with. And Sue has the capability of being able to access everything on her computer too, so if somebody does come in during the day, they can also get it done that way.
That's great.
So that's it.
Good
Well,
job.
thank you. Yeah,
A
that's
lot done
fantastic.
in a short period of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I'll move to appoint Bryn Durno as town clerk for a term to expire on June 30th of 2026.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Good luck with Azaleas.
All right, I'm gonna shuffle around this agenda a little bit, I apologize. But the next item, I'm gonna move up to the list, because he has a commitment to the trustees board, it's John Callahan, and discussion regarding relocation of the textile bins.
I do want to say, the Board of Health was invited to attend as well. And Joan did tell me Maria was planning to come, so I'm not sure.
Which one are you? Oh, the
Number
text.
13.
Oh, oh.
Yeah.
I would
But
like
we
to have
can-
John's input on this, honestly.
Who's?
I mean, Maria,
Yeah.
the Board of Health.
We could start the conversation because John does have a.
I just have to be on the road like 5:45 around home, turn on the Zoom call, and everybody else is.
Okay.
So
I'm rush.
the discussion has been kind of going around a little bit, all right?
I just want to say, I got an email to Jason, Mary Beth, and they asked me, she was in town, I said, I'll come out and do this, and I'm glad to be here, but I don't know anything about what's going on.
We have 4 textile bins, which are over at where the Snell House used to be, right? Across from the post office. And those bins have been there now for quite a while.
Yeah.
And there's a contractor that's responsible for, administrating what's in the bins. And he's returned to the town, I think about $4,000. Somewhere's in the order of $4,000 for the textile, because they sell the stuff, right?
Yeah.
So those bins, we've caught a few people speak about the bins, that they're, in terms of the placement, they don't look quite right. And albeit we might be inclined to think that, the truth is we're required to put those bins someplace to collect clothes, which you can't throw into the trash anymore.
Right.
So we got the bins, we put them over there. At that time, it seemed like the right location. That land, is not in the custody of the town anymore. It's in the custody, that land's been leased to MCO, the developer for the mud district. And so those bins are on his property right now. Although we still own it legally, it's got a 99-year lease on it that goes to the developer. So those bins need to find a home. And when we ratchet through all of the options for those bins, right? The DPW garage, not a good place to put them. A lot of truck traffic in and out, tough navigating. Can't put them at the fire station, really. We got emergency vehicles, ditto for the police station. Probably not a good location at town hall for these things. And so when we think about all the areas that they go, the more likely placement for them would seem to be put them in the back parking lot of the library so people can come in, drop their stuff off, drive out. That would also give us an opportunity to put a camera on the library building, which has got power and communication, so we can look at these bins. There have been issues with those bins getting stuff dropped off, like TVs, which, the guy that is the contracted provider has said if that stuff appears, he's gonna take care of it, and he's done that.
He's been very diligent. about
He's been
that.
super diligent about it. There's no garbage on the ground. I mean, when those bins were down at McClune's, right, and you remember that, right?
Mhm.
There was stuff there for weeks piled up.
Packed up.
Yeah,
It was just, and people took it, it became a dump, right? They put bedding over there, TVs, refrigerators, whatever they want, they threw it over there. This has actually worked out quite well for us, right? We've had a few little obscurances with stuff, but the guy has done a good job. So, John, the ask is that when we look at all these things, all right, all these locations across the town, the library seems to be the place that's the most logical. And that's kind of the deductive reasoning as to where we're at this point. And
So, well, let me, at this point, because you've covered a lot of the ground, I wrote down some things I was concerned about, the way you set this up. And I thought this was the best location in town. There isn't any place that's as good as the current location, except you don't own the property,
you don't have a
We own
lot.
it, it's just being leased,
or you lease the property.
released, yeah.
So, I get it. But, have you, and there was a resistance by the trustees, because it's not in our mission. I don't want to waste your time, but you can tell that's not why we're there and going through this. We do have the space, we have the access to parking, the hard surface, it solves some of those problems. It's just, my concern was security, visibility, maintenance, like, are the ladies supposed to go out and somehow deal with strollers and televisions and what happens in the, you've addressed some of that it happens, because that's what happens at these places, and you've all seen ones that have gone to hell fast because of that dumping. The only question I have a piece of paper, just brainstorming it. And I don't want to cover things we've already covered. I just didn't think that it was as good a place because it's not visible. And the security is really occasional police who will now need to add that to their task. Now, are you serious about getting a camera in the parking lot? That would be,
Yeah, that would be.
that would be.
I think there's got to be some means to identify. I mean, over the years, I'm going to tell you, there have been instances in that back parking lot that are not colorful.
Right.
And that camera is going to help give us some insight as to the rest of what goes on back there.
Where would the camera go? I'm curious.
Well, I guess that depends on, right now, I would be thinking that those bins would sit in the rear of the parking lot, all right? And whether or not we take up spaces or put them on the sidewalk or the curbing so we could still have the parking spaces there, that's a matter of discussion, but it would be in the rear if you know where that, that parking lot takes a turn and where the wood fence starts, right? Somewhere's in that area so that we could position the camera on the corner of the building where that emergency light is at that rear door and have that look continuously at that area. And that camera would record, it would be kind of like a webcam.
Well, would it go to the police?
Would it go where?
Directly to the police?
No, it won't, but if the police wanted to look at it, they could, right? I mean, if I wanted to look at a webcam right now of Kennebunk Beach, I can do that.
Yeah.
And
Changed a lot.
we can do the same thing with that. We can have a camera that's web-based and, it'll record so that if we need to identify a particular event, you can do it. And anybody that wants to look at it can. And if the police department is so inclined to put a monitor up there and pipe into that so they have constant vision, they can.
Well, I guess partly I would think that the people who are going to it may have second thoughts about going to a place behind the library like that. Because most people park before they get to the back of the library because it's a long walk to get to the front door. So that would be and was a major concern. We haven't been thinking about putting cameras on the building, had no need. And so that would be a part, that would be good. And the only other thing is to say, are you sure that you've thought of all these other places? Because we do have, I just bring it up because I'm to represent, but earnestly, we have a transfer station location that's in a place that's isolated from residents. It's kind of just as accessible, not accessible as the library. It's just using an area that's been closed off to us and isn't doing anybody any good as it is. I know the fence is there and so forth, and that would be a cost. But it's isolated and it wouldn't necessarily bother anybody. I don't know who uses this thing. I assume the best place was where it was for people coming through town. You catch people from other towns. Does this need to get rid of textiles is universal. The other place, and I just bring it up, is have you considered Lauder Field, which has much more visibility with tides, people going by, and police, and has extra room. And I just offer it. You know, I've looked at the 4 bins, I brought a photograph of it, they sit isolated right where they are, so they can sit on the grassy verge, on the tree side of the field, you know, as an alternative, because it's much more neutral country.
Mhm.
But that's our reply, in a sense, to the inquiry that we got.
So let me say this about that, all right?
Yeah.
I mean, Lauder Field has had its share of security issues in the evening hours, more particularly in the summertime. And, you know, it's probably not ideal to put those there without expecting that at some point someone's gonna set fire to them just because they can. And, you know, there have been those issues over there. We also don't have any ability at Larder to look at. I mean, the little snack shack over there, it has electricity, but only in the summertime. And the rest of the time, the power to that thing is turned off, or there's a generator out there. That's unclear to me how all that works, but it's, when we looked at it, it wasn't the most ideal for what we wanted to do. And what was the other location that you brought up was the
transfer station.
so the only issue you're gonna have with the transfer station is that there's a fence there, and the gate's gotta be left open. And it's, you know, I live on that street. And over the years, I'm gonna tell you that there has been, for whatever reason, a significant number of people dumping trash outside that fence. And it wasn't all that long ago, and David was here, he'll tell you that, someone with a dump truck backed up and dumped off roofing shingles. No place to put them, right there, and they screwed. And the road guys picked all that junk up because they were dumped there. And the other issue that I've had with that, I've had this issue with this transfer station for a long time, there's an affection for people throwing propane cylinders in the woods over there and leaving them there. And it's a really remote, unsupervised area. And we're probably just gonna get ourselves into more of that over there. And I haven't seen trash dumped at the transfer station in the last 6 or 7 months, but the construction debris thing happened more than once. And recently, this past summer, I think it was, or last spring, a load of roofing shingles, someone stripped off and said, put them right there. And that's what they did. So, you know, that's the issue. So do you have any?
Have you talked to the post office
Have we?
about using a space there?
We have.
I mean, there's that little cutout in the parking lot, right?
So there's already a bin back there. Or I guess they have that's a storage house. They have all the plastic tubs in there. It's like a
Well, that's closer to the building. I mean, granted, the road to the mud district is gonna go through there, that
It's
spot.
gonna open up
It's gonna open up and.
4 months, that's the wash space for the trucks, basically.
It is. Yeah. That's construction zone.
Well, I guess my one question is, what's the trust, so it's the trustees that feel this is too unsightly for the library, or is it?
To us, and this is I'm just.
Because it's a public library, right? It's a town-owned parcel, so
What?
the library, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so like this is a public benefit and a public good, because it's a resource for citizens to drop textiles and properly recycle, and we get a small income stream back. So I'm
From your point, but that's why nobody wants it, is that it has,
Yeah.
like, I am sure Highway isn't excited about having it near Highway, because they're busy doing their core mission. We have a sense of our core mission, and it's not to be a recycling center.
Yeah.
And we've gotten out of the business of trash and recycling in town, except for this, and this is like, make some money. So it's like, what do we do with this thing? The problem, like what Ron said is, this came up, I didn't want to get to that point. What if there's a fire in the bins? And our library is not that far away. I think we agree on the location. You know, it's in the back and it curls around, it's where the fence is. It's backs onto the forest, a lot of forest. But it's close to the library, the back end of the library, the reading
We may
room is
need to
there.
just drive around
and so
and
forth.
look a little more closely.
Not that that would happen, but that's what happens at these unobserved places. Television, strollers and the rest of it, it's like that's gonna be there. If it becomes a problem, it's an eyesore, And so it's a real concern, and that's why I brought up the two places that you didn't mention, but I probably did it because you considered it was, the playing field, the library, and, or the existing, the problematic transfer station, There's no great place for this thing, I agree. And
So what if you did a trial run for 6 months and see how it went?
well, we'll do that. If you go ahead and decide to do this, then you can. We'll monitor it too. I mean, obviously, different people will come in and say, I got a recommend about that. Or something, it's ours, well, it isn't. And I think it's a great thing in the town because I used it this week. I dumped 11 bags. And that thing, I saw some other people on those things. It's a popular location. It's, the last thing I'd say is that all the other places you come up with will need a camera or something, make people happy, sad, all over the place. But can you not put a camera on the existing place? Can you invest in some landscape? But if you say the land's leased and you can't stay there, then that's moot. But what I was coming in with, before we spoke, was that it looks really bad the way it is, stark, abandoned, and it's got a big puddle in front of one of the puddles in front of the bins, and it doesn't look good, it's not presenting well, so.
It does not. And we've had residents,
But that's a
challenge or
temporary
something.
situation, because, they have to go.
Well, I'm not sure you're gonna do a lot, you put it in the back, and we can see, we can take it and see what happens. It certainly will be blood in the winter, and it should be, secure, safe, but the camera thing would be, a great idea. And I'm concerned about, I don't know what the fire people would say about this, because again, you get it in the best location in town. Everything's less or worse, not quite as good.
and those containers would be well over 50 feet from the building. Where I'm thinking they're gonna go, that's at least that far, and they are steel containers. We've not, to the best of my knowledge, we've not had, there were containers in the area. There's one behind the church that was used for paper for a long time, Alabadi, and that went away. Now there's a clothing thing
There's
behind
one
the
there,
church.
really.
Yeah.
Still there.
And, Pepperell had one at the church over here on Lowell Street, which is not there. That was, so these things have been successfully located without fire, albeit becoming a place for people to dump stuff, right? And we seem to have gotten that worked out, and the guy he's there every week.
It's like every Friday, I think he's there.
He's pulling those dumpsters apart, he's pulling those he's emptying them out, and he's made a few bucks because people left money in their pockets, and he's cashed in on that. And so that, when we look at it, and we can certainly not act tonight because we do want to get Maria looped in on this. But when we look at all the possibilities of where these things are gonna go, that
Well,
spot,
as the trustee, and the oldest one, I'd say, I understand. And give it a go, and we'll come back and revisit it, yes, it's not, it is town property, and, we've
Yeah.
covered it, you know it as much as I do. And see, don't burn the place down.
we'll try not to do
Try
that.
not to do that.
Yeah, we'll try.
Yeah, and we'll have to see. It's just, it isn't something that, it isn't something we would look forward to as an enhancement, I have to say.
I don't think anybody is really, but
But if, I understand it makes you some money, and I'm glad it makes the town money. But okay, we're done.
I mean, it makes some money. I don't want to mislead you to think that the purpose of that is to have revenue for the town. It's not. The purpose of it is to give people a place to throw textiles, which you can't throw into the trash anymore. Soon the state's going to come out with some additional requirements about food waste. I have no idea how that's going to get handled, but right now, those containers are there because of that requirement, and that's the only reason they're there, and it was quick and dirty for us to put them there at that time. But they do need to go soon. Soon. That is a pad site where that is. That is the old Snell House, and you've been around a while. You know, we had a auto parts store there for years, and so it was just convenient to put it there, but we don't own that land anymore.
I don't parts.
Well, that wasn't known to us when we did our
I don't
discussion.
remember it being auto
It going to
parts.
go,
The Snell Auto Parts.
It was a ski shop.
No, it was auto parts.
It was a ski shop.
it was a gasoline
No,
station,
talk to Alan.
I think.
Huh?
It was a gasoline station.
No.
That was across the street.
Oh, that was-
So so we'll leave it at that for now, and we're gonna loop in Maria Amode and get her take on all this. And at some point, probably not tonight, but at our next meeting, we'll come up with a final plan here for where those things need to go, so we can,
Well,
do
those are my
something.
major points, and I'm glad, thank you for the additional information, and we'll carry it back, share it with the others, and, it's not the end of the world, it's not, it is what it is.
yeah,
But I understand, having dumped those bags and how it's a service to town, I'm glad you're doing something about that. So, I'm not, so I'll stop, I do have to leave to get back online at 6.
go for it.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Good night. Is she with NEMCOG?
She was Kelly.
Kelly,
Hi.
how are you?
Hi.
Very well. I'm over here, so I'm a little bit.
So you're up, Kel. We're gonna, talk about the NEMCOG AARP walk, Dunstable final report.
Yes.
You're on.
All right. Well, thank you very much for inviting me here tonight. You have before you, I believe, a copy of the Walk Dunstable final draft report. So this is summarizing the work that we've done with the town, primarily through Jason Silva, since August to conduct walk audits in the center and basically in town center, focused in the historic district. This work was completed through a micro grant from the AARP, and it was also funded through additional DLTA and UPWP funds that are given to NIMCOG. So we worked with Jason and we worked with a number of staff here to conduct a number of walkability audits. And these were looking at the area basically between the library and town hall on Main Street, and then going down Pleasant Street to about Pond Ave. This work really, just to kind of walk you through the report, we provided a little bit of history on different work that's been done in this area to date, primarily looking at the Route 113 project, which basically introduced the first accessible sidewalk into Dunstable. That said, you do have some other sidewalks in town, and what we're really looking at is, are there ways that we can provide more connections for people to walk to various destinations? I would say, if you go to the second chapter, we provide an overview of the different walk audits that we completed, and one we had focused really on seniors. We did a meeting with the Council on Aging, and that was the group, I believe, that was most in support of the idea of introducing greater walkability in town center. There was a real desire to walk between town center and the library, to be able to get around on different paths, and to use walking as a really good form of exercise. And also thinking about a way that we can introduce this concept of town center being a place that drivers have to go through on the town's terms. Maybe driving a little bit slower and paying more attention to what happens in this historic, really beautiful area of town. So we did conduct 3 audits. There's a summary of those, and then the rest of the report really deals with general recommendations. So we have a number of recommendations for ways that walkability could be improved, and these are based on observations of the conditions that we saw on the walk audits. And these recommendations really focus on 4 key areas. So the first is on accessibility and safety. So looking at ways, locations where you could expand that sidewalk network, where you could complete essentially the sidewalk that terminates right now just outside of Town Hall and bring that all the way down to the library. This was something that was studied through the Safe Pathways Committee, I believe earlier on 2014 to 2017. And this is work that could be resumed and could be grant funded. I think wherever possible, we tried to identify funding sources that either require a low match from the town or no match from the town. So a lot of these funding sources could be, if there is a match required, it could be completed through your CPA committee. So looking at extending sidewalks, in a lot of cases, those sidewalk additions, we're really looking only on one side of the street, just because of the conditions of your streets right now. So extending that sidewalk, extending the sidewalk, or improving the intersection where Pleasant meets Route 113, where 113 turns down to Pleasant Street, making that intersection a little bit safer for pedestrians or people who want to travel. And then also connecting it to what is currently the town's oldest sidewalk, which is a granite slab sidewalk that's right outside of 1 Pleasant Street, the William Townhouse. We also have a series of recommendations regarding crossings. So again, really at that intersection, I would believe is a priority crossing that we really want to see improved. But we also identified a number of other crossings that could be improved. And then what's not usually a traditional element in a walk audit study was the idea of pathways. So thinking about ways that the town, and this really came about through the conversations with the senior center, with residents who attended the senior center meeting, was thinking about there are a number of informal pathways in town that could actually be converted into more formalized pathways. And whether they're either paved or a compact granite surface, there are ways that you could create a really nice a series of walking loops through town. We took a look at who owns property in town center, and a lot of it is publicly owned. So these are areas that you could pursue a grant through the Mass Trails funding, which is, the grant application period is open right now through February 1. You could pursue a grant to do a feasibility study to understand what the potential costs would be or what your next steps would be for something as small as connecting the end of Highland Street to High Street, where there already is an emergency access road, or looking at a pathway network that would extend behind the school into the fields, or connecting the library through the police station area. So you could kind of create some loops that way, which would be, I think, a big attraction for town center. And then the final series of recommendations are regarding wayfinding. And I would say those are perhaps issues that you would maybe see as a later term or a long-term implementation. But I think one thing you could do is take a look at your signage in town center and kind of clean it up a little bit or remove any signs that are old or really not necessary anymore. Especially because this is in a historic district, you kind of want to make sure that signage is kept to a minimum, or any signage that's there as part of a cohesive brand and directs people to some of your historic assets. So overall, I'm here tonight. I'm able to answer any questions you might have. But again, what we've done in the series of recommendations here is wherever there is maybe an action that could be taken first, we've identified those as priority areas. And where possible, try to provide recommendations for grant programs that could be applied to help to fund those implementation efforts.
Cool. My only question is in regards to, and having just participated in the Jingle Fest, which is what we have once a year, it was really well done, I thought, is either temporary or more consistent lighting opportunities. So like walking on that granite pathway is beautiful. It's really unique to Dunstable, but it's also really uneven. And, you know, I saw some people were parking down at like the little cafe as well as the police station and the fire station, but they're also, you know, potentially rolling their ankle. And do you know if there's many opportunities for either, we don't have natural gas, so we can't do like a natural gas lantern, but like finding ways to brighten paths either temporarily or more consistently, but within a historic look, because that area is so unique to
That was-
town.
Well, what we did do, so a project that I worked on in Arlington, it was right in the center of town. and it's in a historic park, and so we
I've
have.
seen it.
Whittemore Robbins, or sorry, not Whittemore Robbins, Whittemore Park, right at the corner there. So it's dark sky lighting,
Okay,
but the lights all have kind of a historic look to them. So
Okay.
they're made to complement the historic house that's right behind the park.
okay,
And dark sky lighting really makes sure that you don't have a lot of ambient light, and it doesn't disturb any of your natural critters, and it doesn't
yeah,
put light out onto abutters or nearby residents who might not want to have lit pathways kind of spilling over into their windows.
that's great. Yeah, I think something like that down the road for us, just as we have more nighttime events and we sort of activate these spaces, it's finding ways to keep people from rolling an ankle or, missing a footstep and things like that.
Yeah, I think trip hazards were one of the top issues that a lot of your seniors spoke about as one of the barriers to walking. It's just, having uneven surfaces, and that's where sidewalks or like a standard grade is really important.
Yeah,
Part of the discussion during the public outreach was looking at town center as more, rather than on a vehicle scale, like a pedestrian scale.
yeah,
And if we want to, at some point, create more of a destination and define town center with our infrastructure, how do we go about doing that? And like pedestrian scale lighting would be part of that. And we actually, Kelly had a really interesting idea about that old historic sidewalk and trying to get some Mass Historic grant money to restore it, so it's not, so uneven. And I mean, I think additional work, we'd certainly want to restore that old historic sidewalk, but any new sidewalk would have to have an ADA compliant basically next to it. And I actually think there's sufficient room to keep both.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, the one thing that was most interesting to me as part of this process was everybody who was engaged in it was very, very supportive. I wasn't sure how people would react to it, but almost unanimously, people were really, really supportive of the work and excited about the potential opportunities. So that was encouraging, I thought.
Well, especially as we, Wickham and Willoughby was really busy that Saturday. And then as we look to have a potential another business opening and farmhouse and sort of keeping our even unique commercial spaces accessible and active, like parking and walking are going to be the chief complaints that we'll get if we don't have places for people to go and safely get out. Because cars move pretty quickly on 113. It's not a slow road, in spite of our.
It's wider now, so it's even less slow.
Yeah, so I think it's probably a good opportunity for us.
I think there are a lot of like historic, very small towns in Vermont that you could look to as well.
Yeah.
As far as like kind of maintaining that historic character and historic look, but really slowing traffic down so that it's like when you go through this area, you kind of do it on their terms. And it also, when traffic is a little bit slower, it makes people look around and see what kind of assets can be.
Yeah, and stop.
Local to your businesses.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, this will be fun to review. So thank you.
And NEMCOG just had their call for project ideas for next fiscal year? Or
Yes.
next calendar year, whatever the heck it is. And so we did submit, I don't know, 4 or 5, and I got your email today. So we are gonna, one of the project ideas that I sent over was taking another look at the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan, is kind of dovetailing this work.
Yeah.
To say, okay, this was done several years ago. Let's just refresh it real quick. Let's make sure we know what the priorities are in this plan, and then hopefully set us up for a grant round so that we can go to the Complete Streets Grant Program and say, okay, this is our #1 priority. And try to seek funding to begin implementation of some of these projects that the community's actually already identified. They're already there. It's just, making sure they're in the right order and we know what is most important. And then going to that program, which I don't think we submitted a grant application yet for the program. So,
No, you're
but we're,
tier 3 communities, so you're eligible. But
so we're set up to do it. So that's, the hope is to leverage the work that's already been done.
Great.
And go after the money now.
Yeah. It's even like event lighting, like it may not be active all the time, but if you have more lights out here in the parking lot, but like we ended up shutting down the road here and up top for Jingle Fest, but then we had kids playing like beanbags in the road, and I'm like, it's pretty dark, you know, and like, and people were like, oh, I wish it was a little brighter, because we had the light pole down on the 113. I'm like, oh, we just, you know, next time if we had brighter lights within the parking lot that you could activate from, you know, for that event, and then go back to normal low level lighting other times. Like,
We don't have any lighting.
no, not really. But it's like, you know, we're doing the best we can, but let's keep at it, right?
And I
Make
think
those
one
events
of
more
the most
sustainable.
compelling stories to me, and again, I think when you make things walkable for seniors, you make them walkable for
Everyone.
people with strollers,
Yeah.
or somebody who's got walkers and like that. And so one of the most compelling stories to me was hearing about when the children at Swallow Union School go visit the library twice a year. They need a police escort to walk them down the street, and it's like, if you had that sidewalk there, you would have something that's walkable, and that could also be pursued through safe routes to school funding. So it's the things that benefit one community benefit other people in the community as well.
I mean, we did have a Safe Pathways initiative
Yeah.
a number of years ago, and it was not successful. And the biggest reason Safe Pathways was not successful is because in order to construct that sidewalk from here to the library, there were property easements that were being breached and rights of way that needed to be accomplished. And there was a lot of grumping about it.
I
And
don't know if that was the main reason though, because there's a lot of the roadway easement extends into those properties.
Yeah.
So there is room
yeah,
that the town owns, but the property owners are using it as if they are their own. And one of the other main stumbling blocks was that culvert down, trying to figure out the engineering for that, and that, I think that was the final clinch.
And,
But
yeah, I mean, I don't know, it wasn't successful at the time, I understand that, but I guess it depends on how you measure success too, because part of the reason we're kind of still talking about this, I think, and there is momentum to even do that, was the work that was done in the past. And we actually, through this process, actually leveraged a lot of the work that was done back then to develop some of the recommendations. And actually Sue Saladakis came to, I think, 2 of the meetings. Yeah, and had actually offered some really interesting insights about the work that was done in the past. Mike was at least 2 of the meetings too, I think, right? I think, at least the first one. And so Mike did the same. So I think, you know, the work that had been done really helped inform this process as well, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to build on it.
It's a real tangible benefit, because you've done all the research, the legwork, and now it's, like you said, complete some grants, and then see if we can get actual construction, sort of like putting the electric charging station here, like you know, it's the payoff is the physical opportunity.
and if we can get it done through grants and really pay as little as possible through the town.
So be it.
It would be, anything that's gonna require the town people to pay it is probably not gonna fly, but.
I think what we've tried to do here is to set the town up for another document that helps to support your grant applications. But it's also work that has been vetted by members of the community and is supported by members of the community. So it's not like it's just the town saying, we want to do this and here's the report. But here's what we've talked about with the community supports it. And this is like another document that helps to substantiate that request for funding.
And,
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you. You've put a lot of time into it.
and I just have to say, walk Dunstable, Union Building, EV chargers, just locally, and then the regional transportation planning, the regional digital equity planning. I mean, we wouldn't be doing any of this stuff if it weren't for them. So they are like a critical partner, for small communities like Dunstable, like a critical partner to be able to do any of this work.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, you know, the level of technical assistance and experience and expertise that they're bringing to all this stuff is just like, thank goodness we have you as partners. So we really, I really appreciate that. It's been great.
anything else?
No.
Yeah, cool, thank you.
Thanks for coming out, we
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you
it.
very
Yeah, absolutely, taking the time and talking us through this tonight, we appreciate your time.
And we're here to help if you
Absolutely.
need some assistance in applying for those grants.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, Maria, hello.
Okay,
So we actually were jumping around our agenda here a little bit to accommodate some schedules. And John Callahan, you may have seen him on the way out. I don't know, but
Yeah.
he's come and gone. And the discussion that we had with John was to get the library board looped into the possibility of relocating the textile bins to the library.
it's a terrible place for them.
So right now, they can't stay where they are
Why not?
because we don't own the land.
We own the land, but it has been leased to, it's been leased through the,
But you
Project.
have an immediate need to remove it. I mean, eventually we're gonna need to move them, but
it's gonna be fairly, within probably a few months.
Yeah, they're gonna need to get moved before the snow flies. They are, because they're gonna go in there with,
one of the specs, when we work with the people, with the bins, is one of the things, it's a big, problem with location, is private.
is what?
A private place, and the library is very private most of the time when it's not open. And the reason they don't want private is, well, there's two reasons. One, people don't see it and stop and put it off. People don't make a trip to the library to drop their stuff off. Number two is dumping. And if you talk to Highway, I mean, one of the reasons we have a dumpster over at Highway is not just for their stuff, it's so when they pick up things, people dump on private parts of the town where it's quiet. So we already have an issue with dumping, which is guaranteed. You know, when you have one of those boxes, we had it when we had it at the transfer station, it all happens, right?
Mhm.
They will come and pick it up. But if we put this in a private place where it's gonna get dumped regularly, they're not gonna come settle our dumping problems. And we're just inviting them. And the signs say don't dump it. So the library is not a good place to be.
So there's a couple things about that. If we were to use the library, you're right, it's off. We could modify or put a sign out in the road. And then we could also, the library has been, that back parking lot has been the source of some less than colorful activity over the last few years. And so the thought is that there'd be a camera, which would be a web-based camera that would be looking at those bins as well as the area around it, so that you could see what it is that's going on. And absent of that, if you have some other location other than where they are now,
What's your deadline for moving them?
it's been, we've
We
had,
don't have a.
we don't have a
set one yet,
deadline, but we've,
Because this kind of fired up when people started complaining about the look of it. And it's funny, because I talked to somebody who used to live in Dunstable, and she's like, yeah, they really have detracted from that weed-covered lot. The lot is still, the boxes really aren't that bad. The boxes are clean, tidy, with the logo on them, neatly painted. It's not a great color, but one of the things is they want them seen, right? And they clean up. I mean, as soon as we hear somebody reports to us, so most people prefer to, rage on Facebook. We call them and it's gone, usually that day.
Yeah,
They're
they've
out to
been
pick it up.
very
And
good
that's
about-
part of the agreement, but that's not going to be part of the agreement if the dumping gets big, then they're gonna have to pull it. And I know it's difficult when we get pressure from townspeople, and it's really easy to believe that those loud voices are the only voices. And if we had listened to the people that were yelling, we wouldn't have a town trash program, right? We have to sort of look at what's out there and make the best decision and understand that some people are gonna yell, and mostly they're gonna yell so they get their way, and so that people aren't going to resist them.
Do you have another location in mind? Like, I know this is a long,
Right.
like,
Well, what I'm
what's the other
saying is it
suggestion?
suddenly became an issue after that came up.
That's not
We
true
knew we were
because,
gonna have to move eventually.
right, and that eventually, that is here now.
Okay, so they're using that, they're gonna use that lot now.
Yes.
Well, we are in a lease agreement now with
When is that?
MCO.
It's a 99-year lease.
It's a 99-year lease. So we technically don't have control over that property anymore. We still own it, but it's being leased to somebody else who's gonna be building the mud project.
Are they gonna put buildings up?
So they're starting up in a few months?
Yes.
Well,
Are they gonna
it may
put-
take.
are they gonna put what, Mike?
We don't have a date, but it is going to be,
So we don't even have a date yet.
That's a pad site, that's right where those are.
No, they're gonna put a.
not,
building in.
no.
Okay, so.
They don't
we've
have
gotta
permits or
get
anything
Yeah.
yet.
That was all supposed to be built down in the mud.
Yeah, it's not like it's gonna
Absolutely
happen.
not, there's a building right out on the street.
So.
But
So
they will be,
there's not an immediate, we know we're gonna need to move it eventually, but that eventually isn't here. And by the way, they can be moved when we make a decision. The company will move them
right.
promptly.
Mhm.
I mean, they've been very responsive and very good. I don't see a reason we need to take them to the library, because honestly, I don't see that. We don't have dates, we don't have formal signed contracts, we don't have plans, that's not starting for at least 6 months. So they can stay there for where they are now. The only other thing that really works, it would be highway, and they don't want it, because they're on 113.
It's what?
They're on
Can't think of other
113, they're
places.
visible, and they've got a piece of land in front of their gate. and they don't
Well,
need it.
no, I'm gonna disagree. There's a little
Why do you
more,
think highway's a problem?
yeah, I think highway is a problem for a couple of reasons. The first one is the truck traffic. I mean, the guys are in and out of there all hours with dump trucks, and they're not the only one that goes in and out of there.
What if they were in the
What about
front,
library traffic?
not going in the yard?
I mean, you could put them out in the front off to the side where the veterans office is. You could, I suppose, stick them over there if that was an option, but
I mean, the people driving in and out of the library are often the seniors. And it's pretty cramped. So we've had professional drivers, we have an area, we could make a drive through, and it's on 113.
so why don't we do this? If you have other locations, why don't
We
you come,
don't,
why don't you come back in a couple weeks? And
no, we don't.
You don't.
If you want us to, them moved,
Yeah.
that's a unilateral select board decision. If you decide that it cannot stay there, it needs to be immediately moved to the library, I think you guys can do that. There's no support from the Board of Health on that.
No, but I think in terms of just having some consensus thinking, right? That's,
We worked very
That's our
hard
outreach,
to cite
is to-
this.
let's
We worked
just-
very hard to cite this. This was not, it took us months, literally, to try and come up with a good place that was visible, but not taking up in some other thing. And the library came up the first time around, and it failed for a number of reasons, one of which being, the library didn't want it, but I think we might have asked them back then, but it wasn't something that really met the criteria. And the other thing, and I think most people just throw their fabrics in the trash, which you're actually not supposed to do anymore, it is illegal. I used to drive them to Lowell, the only place that was regular, or you could go to
Right.
Savers, right? But Lowell, you could actually take everything because they bail the things that can't be used as whatever clothing they are, which was only open during the day, during working hours. It was pretty awkward, and they often weren't open. You had to look up their hours and make a special
I
trip over.
remember, they would take rags of anything too, yeah, I
Right,
remember
so
going over
yes.
there, yeah.
If they're clean, because that's what this is supposed to do. I
Yeah.
mean, so, 22.35 tons, this is July through September, and these may not be important to you. It might be more
23
cosmetic.
tons
22.35 tons of textiles. would
from
go
Dunstable.
From those bins. I'm sure it's not all Dunstable, right? And over $3,000 to the town, which I know some people have said is a pittance.
No, it's not.
Every penny counts at this
Well,
point
that's the way
in
we
our
feel.
budget, yes.
But it's also pulling it out of the waste stream.
Yep.
And this is benefiting charities as well. What this organization does is they take it out and they partner with charities that take this, use it, resell it, or donate it. I mean, it gets worked through and sorted. So it's, like I said, this all became more emergent when people complained that they were unsightly, but I actually don't think the bins are that unsightly. The lot is unsightly, maybe we take some of that money and just mow the weeds down.
Well, something is going to be done with that lot, what it
we
is,
know
we
that.
don't know, yeah.
But you
Yeah,
honestly
we don't
think
know.
something's gonna be done before spring?
No,
So we've got a lot of time
Yeah, I
to think
think
about
it's
this.
gonna
So
need to be done
We
before
spent a lot of
spring.
time thinking about this.
there's not gonna be a building there before.
No,
spring.
there isn't, but there's gonna be drilling rigs going in there, and they're going in that property, and they've already been there. Test boring company's been there already looking at, how are we gonna get in there? And so that Snell property is
So they
their, how
called
they're
us and
accessed.
said, we can't get in. We need.
No, they're saying they're gonna need access off of the main
Can
road.
they give us a call tomorrow, next week?
What? Oh, no, I don't know. It's, all this is discussion at this point.
Yeah.
And so part of that discussion is where do we relocate those bins to? They haven't told us, get them out of there. But the test boring company's been there a couple of times looking at access, and it's a pretty extensive amount of work going. And I'm gonna tell you, that's gonna happen January. They're gonna be in there
Okay, so
boring
we
in
need to be
January.
out a month because they're gonna be.
No, they are driving over that property to get, they're not gonna use the access that's already there.
Yeah, I guess there's something about the access road that
Can we ask?
the
They're gonna
rigs
set
won't.
the rigs up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's that's what you would do with the excavators.
And you know what? They've seen the bins. They need to say,
The bins could be moved to the side until we can figure out a place. to
well, you know
put
what?
these.
They need to say, we can't get through because of the bins.
Yeah, they haven't said that.
Right,
They haven't
or,
said that.
and can you do it?
But we're aware of we've got a couple of pieces with the bins. We've all, he may be caring more than the rest of us. We fielded complaints from residents who just don't like the way they look. They look,
All the time.
right, that they don't look right.
And I hear,
Yeah, we get them too.
I also
And
hear
so-
about how convenient they are, and,
Right.
you know, I don't love the look of them,
So
but I
wanna
also,
say this.
I appreciate the fact of what they do and tend to sort of let go of the fact that they're not that pretty. You know, they are serving a purpose. We required to have them in order to maintain the,
Yeah, I wanna go
Stay
back to
in line with
something
the
on
law.
fielding
Good.
complaints. And this is
Is that
something,
what
I
they
mean, when I was recruited for Board of Health, I was like, I don't really know the subject matter. Well, we need somebody who can look at the issues, make a decision, and say, no, if it needs to be said, okay, but don't. So, I'm going back to the trash. I think you were at that trash meeting,
I was.
and you specifically came up to us and said, it sounds to me like the town has spoken and they don't want this. Because let me tell you, it was, what we're hearing about the bins pales in comparison to what we heard. The rhetoric and the fury over closing the transfer station. But looking through all the pieces, and by the way, there are people that come up privately because they're not gonna speak up. The people that are online yelling about the bins. A couple of people sort of said something, but people aren't gonna speak up. We've had people come to do it privately. I've had people come up and thank us, right? But they're not gonna speak up against the screamers, and as elected officials, we need to look at the whole thing and remember the people yelling don't represent the town, they're just yelling.
We also said when the blue bins were put in, it was a temporary placement.
It's still temporary, it's only been there a year.
yeah, I think there's still time for us to find a proper
But
place
that,
for
like,
them.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
know, we're worried about.
We also have a temporary salt shed that's been there for 15, so
Yeah, but that's a difference. That's,
not really.
yeah, it is, because the bins are, they're catching a lot of eyesight.
So,
By the way, nobody's mentioned the fact that the lot was an eyesore before the bins went on it.
The lot's been an eyesore for years, and
Right,
the Snell house didn't help it out any. It looks better now than it did with the Snell house on it.
right. So the lot has been an eyesore for years. The bins are something for people to focus on.
So what we need to do is we're gonna work this through a little bit more and have some more discussion and take a look at the highway location, because in front
then
of
we'll
the,
drive around and see.
and we'll
what-
pick a plan, but we're gonna probably wanna move these things out relatively soon.
I mean, if there is some income with highway, I would say where they're situated now, there's just a little drive-through, the little hook, right?
Yeah.
That's all they really need. It doesn't need to be up against highway's gate.
Yeah.
Or fence. It needs a little hook.
And for his truck to be able to, yeah, little.
So that people can just get off the road, a couple of cars can get off the road.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it needs to be
it
public
might,
enough.
it might be appropriate to put them out there in front where the veterans office is, kind of in that area.
Yeah.
Whatever, but
Question. Do you know, have you spoken with the trash service? Are they eventually gonna sort of roll in a barrel that people can recycle that, like with the recyclables
The
and trash
town
on their
trash
site?
service or these people?
The trash service.
The,
Eventually, you know, because they mandated you have to recycle and So now they're mandating you can't put textiles in your trash.
Right.
So we now have a barrel for our recyclables, a barrel for our trash. Will there eventually be a barrel for textiles as well?
I can't, I mean, I don't have anywhere near the kind of volume in textiles.
Yeah.
So I'm not really seeing that.
They're probably not gonna incorporate
Like,
that.
if you
into-
gave me a barrel for textiles, it would go out.
Once every 2 years. Yeah.
I mean, I take.
When you clean the house up, you
when
sell
I'm going down to the post office, I'll sort of look and there's a bag in the corner of the kitchen.
Yeah.
When we're going through stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, it's not even worth taking, right? So.
So the state is expecting people to go through sort of a private service like this in order to meet, for us to meet the
And these
law.
services have always been available, it's just gotten a heck of a lot more convenient.
Yeah,
And like I said, these people are great to work with. I mean, they've been responsive. When something gets dumped, we find out, they come pick it up,
Yeah.
you know, the things aren't left overflowing. They monitor it.
yeah.
They've been really good to work with.
Okay, we gotta move along because we got a
So-
hearing starting up. And so
Okay.
we'll get back with you in a couple of weeks, Maria,
Yeah.
and loop you in on what the outcome's gonna be here.
All right,
So, thank you. Thanks, Maria, for taking time to come.
Well, it's time for the hearing.
Okay,
Hi, folks. Thanks, Maria. See ya.
6:05. And we are going to open a public hearing for the purposes of tax classification. What's that? A sign-in sheet? No, we don't sign that. We have that. You're signed in. Nice to see you guys. Welcome. Nice to see you again. Absolutely appreciate it. So if you want to take this at this point, because this is for you guys to set your tax.
Classification.
Yeah,
Well, you have our little write-up.
yeah.
If you look on the first page, you'll see, as usual, our residential class holds almost 95% of the tax base. So for a split rate in a town like this, it really doesn't make any sense. If you look at the back page, if we were to go with the largest shift that we could, and then we reduce the residential rate by 39 cents, and we put the, monthly by almost $7. I just realized how small it is.
Yeah, that's, could you make it any tinier? Jeez.
Well, I just wanted to put it on one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So as the board usually does, we would recommend that the board of selectmen adopt a residential shift of 1, a factor of 1, so that all classes are taxed at the same rate.
Okay. You have anything else, Jason?
I don't have anything else to add, no?
This is the same it's been for the last however many years.
Goes up a little bit and down a little bit.
And it's the max of our levy limit.
Yeah,
Just
it
to
is,
make sure
yeah.
it's on the record that everyone hears that, who's listening at home.
Yes.
It's the max 2.5 we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not sufficient commercial property.
Yeah, to make it
It
valuable.
just doesn't make sense because the impact, once you start shifting it, the impacts of the commercial properties is just significantly more. So,
Well, I can make a motion if we're
Yeah.
okay with that. Move to establish a single residential, single rate residential factor of 1.
Second,
All in favor? Aye.
and just, that puts the tax rate at
Well-
14. No,
It's not set.
it's not set, okay.
Right, it's not
It won't be
so,
certified.
this is a
After this
classification.
hearing,
Estimate
I'll
only.
put some stuff.
Yeah, it's
It will probably be that, but unforeseen.
Yeah.
Whatever, but I wouldn't announce it yet.
Okay. I
So
won't
we have a
announce it.
motion, we have a second, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
If I win Powerball, I'll bail everyone out for
Okay,
you.
sounds
Yeah,
good.
that's my plan too.
With that being said, I'll close the public hearing.
And just so you know, town accountant has also, submitted free cash to the state. And, estimate right now is $570,000 in certified free cash, so it's less than what was,
Originally thought.
what was certified
No, really.
the prior year. There's a variety
It
of-
makes sense, though, that you're gonna see that decline like that because we've used so much of it.
That's part of the reason.
Yeah, absolutely. It's poisoning the number.
Yeah.
And next year will be worse or worse.
Yeah. And the other thing that's
Worser.
happening.
Worser.
It will be worser.
The other thing that happens is because we're just level funding most everything on the expense side,
Mhm.
expenses don't level fund everything.
No, they go up.
So
What's
if
left
there
over?
was
Return.
any
Yeah.
return, it's just diminishing every year.
Yeah.
So that's one of the other reasons too.
All right. So I'm gonna go back on our agenda. And so we'll go item 6, which is the creation of a master plan implementation committee. And so, do you wanna walk through that?
Yeah, as you all know, this was a recommendation of the master plan to put an implementation committee together so that there was someone responsible with coordinating,
We sort of talked about this already, right?
Yeah.
correct,
Let me
yeah,
reinvent the wheel here.
you know, and this is directly from the master plan. The composition, the purpose, it's all right in the master plan.
And they ultimately would bring their recommendations or implementations before a select board group to determine if said idea or implementation strategy would be worth pursuing, correct?
I would say whoever the governance authority is. So like for zoning, they may go to planning first.
Okay.
Not that they wouldn't come here either, but, you know,
Depending on the.
depending on what the focus is, they'll work with and facilitate with I would hope all the stakeholders involved. And honestly, most of them are represented in the committee composition.
Okay,
So this committee itself does not have the power to implement anything. They do.
they would just bring
the
their recommendations to planning or
Correct.
Correct.
conservation or the select board, library, board of trustees, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
Do you have a motion?
I'll move to approve the creation of a master plan implementation committee as proposed.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving along. Karen, what's your, you're gonna be about 6?
He's got 20.
Yeah, approximately 6.
We'll move this through here. Lip process, item 7, Jason.
So based on the last meeting we had, we spoke and offline individually, and as a result, I drafted a LIP a review process to go through for 41 Wall Street, but I envision it that it will apply to any LIP project moving forward if there is another one. And so it's been shared with all those who have played some role in the process. Affordable Housing Committee, I heard back from John Hughes, who had positive things to say about it. I didn't hear back from the planning board, but it was shared with them. And then anyone who would be involved in any level of technical review. So they're aware of it, they have it, and that's that.
I've read through this thing a bunch of times. I think you've done a phenomenal job putting this together.
It's very applicable to not just the Brattle, Lowell, whatever they call themselves project, but in the event we have others, and there's a potential we do.
Well, that
You
was
know?
the point. I mean, I worked on this too and sent it to Jason and he fine tuned it and made appropriate changes. So I think that was what we were going for, is to make it just a standard policy, not specific to anybody, but for.
Right. It's a guideline.
Yeah, it's a guideline, and this is based off other towns that are doing this exactly, so it's not novel. and it's not outlandish.
Yeah,
It is, it's a, if it is going to be a local initiative program project, there are things that need to be followed, and this outlines that.
I did share it with town council.
Yeah.
I talked to him about it, very comfortable with it.
Okay.
One question I had when reading it was, that 60-day, it's section, the 60-day preliminary project review process.
Mhm.
At what point does that clock start?
Yeah,
And I think that's just important for,
Yeah.
for us to know, because, you know, there are some times of the year, like, you know, think of the month of July, if someone will reply like, you know, June 15th, we don't do a ton in July. We do, but like other
Yeah.
boards may not
Yeah.
because of the summer holidays. Like, and is there an implication there if let's say affordable housing didn't meet for a month?
Yeah.
And that window had expired?
Well, they would have to put a meeting together in order, I would think.
Yeah.
Special meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this case, I would imagine that, the clock would start ticking when, I mean, we're already coordinating, actually, we have to set a date for, I
Yeah.
know 20th and 20th work for you. But
Yeah.
we had talked, so I don't know if we want to stick to the 20th or not, it's up to the board.
20th
But-
works for me, it just seems rushed before the holidays, that's all. And
Rather just get it over with. Or rather
Let's
just
get it over with. Yeah.
And then we could always parlay to another one if we don't get
fine
there.
with me, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to be
I think we do.
thoughtful for
Yeah.
other people who may be interested in coming. So,
Yeah, I think we gotta try to get this done on the 20th. And I'm not sure that's gonna be at the conclusion of that at that point either, because
Well, it's definitely not the conclusion, I was just gonna say, it's like the start, we could
Yeah,
start it
this
at
still
that.
has to be done.
So,
there's a lot of work and we'll kick it off.
yeah, so maybe that makes sense if we do have a meeting on the 20th, and we can kick off the process and the 60 days clock that starts at that point.
So I would think in any future project coming in that this would start when we're approached initially by someone who's looking to do a project.
Makes
And we
sense.
give them this document and say, okay,
That makes sense.
yeah,
Yep,
In criteria for review, I would add one other component, whereas like, is this an age focused? There's some proper way to word this, so this is not on the record, but like, if you talk about percent of affordable units, number of affordable units, like age restricted, is this an age restricted
Yeah.
project?
I'll add that.
Because that's something I would like to know on any project, you know, thinking of larger impacts.
Yep,
I thought I saw that in here someplace.
But then, you know, like, I don't want, like, I would, trying to think of like repercussions, is 60 days enough?
some towns are only asking for
30.
30 days. So 60.
I just
I
worry
mean, you
about our
would think
own
by the
boards,
time they
like,
get to this point,
selfishly, our own boards, like,
yeah, but it's 2 months. I mean, we meet frequently. Conservation meets every other week. Planning board meets every other week. Affordable, I mean, you can pull a meeting together pretty quickly.
yeah, but then it would take one meeting to set the agenda and another meeting to approve of the applicancy for the project,
But you would,
the candidacy.
at the time someone is approaching a town, they would have put a lot of their time and diligence into creating a project.
But they wouldn't have sat with the board yet to have like
Right.
affordable housing ask questions. And then affordable housing would have to wait another meeting to create a motion to approve.
They can have a meeting the next week. I mean, there's gonna have to be,
We should say, we're not asking any board or committee to approve anything. It's review, comment, share with the board.
So you don't want like a motion saying affordable housing supports the application by
Not
me
necessarily,
and, you know, Honeybee Way or whatever.
not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, the idea really was to have
Socialization.
a review and to provide question input comments to the select board to help inform your decision on whether or not to approve.
because we are then a co-signer on the applicant to the state.
Sure.
So we want to make sure that our affordable housing is comfortable and they believe that this project is meeting all these things that are appropriate for Dunstable.
So what do you want?
Is
them
the
to-
project proportional to what the town needs? So that's,
No, it'd be the affordable housing recommends supporting this project, has nothing to do with proportional.
yeah, but they would do that. Their recommendation is gonna be based on that criteria.
Or what they feel the project does as a benefit for the
Well,
town.
right, I mean, there's this whole list of things here, yes.
It can't hurt to have a board waive in or out something like this.
Yeah, we just did it
can't
for
hurt.
affordable housing on the Zero River Street project, where we said, we don't want the money, we want the house.
Mhm.
And the planning board said, well, we're not gonna, we received their recommendation and we agree with their recommendation. So it's just a matter of like, what's the goal of, and it's important to have the boards review it, but is it only to say that they reviewed it and it's a checklist, or is it to review it and make a recommendation to us as a select board to say, one of our groups reviewed this and here they are?
Well, I think if we don't give them that, all right, we just say to them, oh, just take a look at this, but, it doesn't really matter whether you guys vote this through or not. The inclination from that board is probably going to be somewhat watered down. They're going to say, okay, what do you want us to do here?
No, they should
And so I think that they
make
should have,
recommendations.
they should have a stake in it, but we may want to solidify that to say, look, why don't you guys, and it's like the advisory board. The advisory board can say, do this, and you can say, no, we ain't doing that. We're doing this other thing. But nonetheless, they drove a stake in the ground. And the other boards in this process should have that same decision-making criteria, right? I think I would look at affordable housing to say, okay, guys, you've looked at this, what's your opinion here and what's been your vote? And they'll come together and say yay or nay, and it's based on some criteria. So I'm going a long way with this. My thought is that the boards should have a vote in making
whether
a
they want to support
recommendation.
it.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
I agree. Be honestly, if this goes to review and the affordable, whatever the stakeholder boards are, if they are not comfortable with a project that has come before the town, they're not comfortable with it, planning board is not comfortable with it, I'm not going to be comfortable being a co-signer on an application to the state as a lit project. And if that person or proponent of the project is not willing to work to satisfy the concerns of those boards, then they can go a different route altogether and just not do a lit.
Yeah,
It's
but
not
we-
preventing them from going forward and applying for a project to the state.
Mhm.
But if I'm signing something as a co-signer for a project, I want to be sure our boards are comfortable with what's being proposed and that the proponent has done everything to make sure those boards are comfortable too, and that it is the project that is right, something that we want. If they don't want to go that way, they can just apply directly to the state and it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Well, we would,
Right? I mean,
we would.
If they want to do it this way, then this is how we want to make sure that they are working with the town and we're working with them so that we're all happy with the project that's going forward. If that process doesn't have to be followed, they don't want to do this, they don't have to. They can
Yep.
apply another way altogether,
Yeah,
right?
I do not.
yeah, and you may not get a unanimous decision from your board either.
Well, then, right, that's,
So,
they may
that's
be
what it is.
true, but the more people, the more boards that you're making happy and the more that the proponent is willing to work to meet the town bylaws and to the extent feasible, then the more likely we are going to agree unanimously and work with this person. Right? I mean, and if you don't, fine, go the other route
I think
and
once,
deal with the ZBA at the end of the day.
we don't, but we don't have a lot of opportunities in here for this sort of project work in this town. The land doesn't exist for that. I mean, it just doesn't. And so this is kind of being built specifically for Lowell Road. And, it can certainly be used for any other projects that come forward, but I think a developer, if this was my project, I'd want to be sure that I stayed into the friendly process with the town and worked through the issues to come up to a conclusion that everyone likes.
Oh, I would prefer everyone come in and be friendly.
And so I would like I would like, I mean, advisory would weigh in on it, but I would certainly would like affordable housing to weigh in on it. And, I think that that's part of the decision-making process.
In planning.
They can say, it stinks, we don't like it, here's the reason why, and
And it would,
we'll deal with that.
and it behooves us to acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
Do you want to add
Yeah.
advisory to this list?
Sure.
Sorry.
Well, I think they were on the list for who, I mean, it gets distributed to all the boards, but those who are actual weigh-in
Yeah,
meetings.
it says included but not limited to affordable planning, water.
Okay.
Yeah, I think finance
Yeah.
has to, I mean, this, when you look at their bylaw, they're obligated to take a look at a project like
Well, the
this.
only one that specifically should not be in here is ZBA.
Yeah, because it goes to them. no
Goes to
matter what,
the
yeah.
end, yeah.
We should be clear on what we're asking from the affordable, especially from the Affordable Housing Committee and Planning Boards. You want them to vote.
We want them to make a formal recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, we want them to say yes or no.
Into
Do you think that
significant.
makes sense or not?
You're looking
Yeah.
at it like, you got,
I wouldn't, that's not how I
Yeah.
was envisioning it, but if that's what the board.
no, go ahead, well,
I
if you
think
weren't,
that's
then,
fine. That's fine.
we're,
It's up to you.
we're just discussing this. So
Yeah, no,
That's
I
what
don't-
this is, it's a discussion.
I don't have any issue with that at all. I just
Okay.
didn't, I wasn't envisioning the process as the board would get formal recommendations, more that the project would be vetted through these boards. Because the Affordable Housing Committee they are experts in affordable housing. They've drafted the housing production plan. They know if this is consistent with the housing production plan.
Yeah.
They know what our housing inventory requirements are. They know if this, they'll be able to analyze, not that we couldn't, but they'll be able to analyze to what extent this gets us,
Right.
closer to our 10% required goal. Planning board, they're accustomed with reviewing projects. This is what they do. And so to look at a project like this and to give it a review, just like they give any proposal that comes before them, they're kind of the experts in project review. So to seek out their feedback on the project and in every way under their authority, I thought made sense for the board to then, okay, these are the questions, how are we going to address them, rather than, they flagged all these issues and then said no, they flagged all these issues and then said yes. I envision it differently, but that doesn't mean anything.
Well, I think it's kind of both. I guess I would expect that after going through the process you just explained, then they would make the vote as to, right? I mean, I don't want them to be passive. I would like them to offer input that they feel is going to make the project better and have the proponent be willing to work that out to the best that they can. And once they get to that point, then they can make the recommendation. That's kind of how I saw the process. Right? I mean,
No,
Do we have to worry that we don't do that for any other project? Like, we don't do it for because it's a specific like, I'm thinking like litigation wise, like, we're not opening ourselves up to like.
Why? I mean, they have a choice. They can either do this or they cannot do this. They can go one way or the other. I don't see any basis for litigation.
the board has discretion on.
They don't have to do this.
Well, I'm thinking like if you had two competing projects and they both go to planning board, let's say, and then they say, we recommend, ABC project, but we don't recommend XYZ project.
But if they're going through the same process, we're going to review them by the same criteria.
Yeah. And we don't necessarily have to take their recommendation. We've done that before. Like, advisory may say, we want to spend $1 million on the roads. And we say, well, we can only afford
Right.
$1. So here we are. Okay.
Well, I mean, there's going to be some sort of subjectivity because you have to evaluate the project, and at the end of the day, is it going to be for the overall benefit of the town?
Yeah.
And we're making our decision based on what our other expert boards provide to us.
You are putting yourselves in a position of, just to state the obvious, you're putting yourself in a position where you may get a yes recommendation and you may want to vote no and vice versa.
Mhm.
So you may be in a position where you're voting against.
Well, we do that all the time.
Okay.
I like pointing out the obvious, that's helpful, and it's good
Just
that our
talking-
friends in
just
the
talking
public
about
can
it.
hear it,
Yeah.
Just talk, I'm just
We don't, we do that. all
putting
the
it
time.
out there. Yeah, no, it's
I mean,
fine.
the advisory board's the advisory board. I mean, I've been up against the select board many times. The select board is saying, do this, and I said, no, you can't, here's why. In most cases, they'll listen and but nonetheless, they don't have to, yeah, I'm saying that's an okay part of this process. We don't have to agree to anything.
It's okay with me too. I'm just putting it all out on the table. That's
Yeah,
all.
I mean, we experienced it a moment ago over the blue bins.
Well, right,
We
yeah.
don't necessarily agree with all the different
Well,
characteristics of the of the location, but we're trying to find a solution.
Well, and that's exactly the point, is that you have that dialogue and you try to
Come
come
to an
to a
answer.
solution that everyone's going to be happy with. And this is for the same process. If during the review of this 60 days, and if any one of the boards writes in and says, hey, this is what I'm really concerned about, I'm not comfortable endorsing this project, even though it's a non-binding endorsement because of this, I would expect the proponent to then go back and try to resolve that issue rather than just say, whatever, I don't care if you like it or not, I'm still going forward.
Well, it wouldn't
The
be,
LIP concept is that we're all working together.
and it pulls it out of the friendly bucket. If you say, you know what, F it, I don't want to deal with it.
Then it's not a
So
LIP.
then you aren't eligible for the select board support,
Right,
which in one sense actually takes us, it forces the developer, you go to the ZBA and see how successful you are.
yeah,
Good luck.
exactly,
Because you didn't want to go, you didn't want to hold hands. That ship has sailed.
right,
And sometimes that's good. Put them to the fire.
yeah.
I mean, because if you can't work with the boards, then you aren't.
That's exactly my point. During this process, if any of the boards have an issue, I would expect the person to work with them to the extent feasible
Resolve it.
to resolve it. I mean, granted, that's going into the lips with the lip. They should be trying to meet the local bylaws as much as they possibly can. Because that's what, we have these bylaws in place because this is what the town has decided how we want things to go. But we do understand that it is a 40B project and they don't have to adhere to any of them.
Yeah.
But in
State's
showing
wisdom.
their good faith that, right, I mean, the proponent in showing their good faith that they want to do a project in town and we want to work with you and we want to fall in line as much as we can with the bylaws. That's where it is. So,
Yeah.
and if they're just not willing to do that, then just go straight to the state and don't call it a lip.
Do you need a motion?
Yeah, do you want me to, a non-binding review and recommendation? I'm gonna add that language.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would, make the motion,
We'll revise the motion.
just as amended.
With, yeah.
As the, right.
So
Yeah.
I'll move to approve the process for the proposals as amended, and as presented, and to share the process as approved to the owners of 41 Knoll Street and or any other potential developers down the road.
To a second?
I'll second it. Do we want to put that specifically for them? But you're adding as well as any future.
Yeah, because we have another subdivision in the bullseye here that's coming before us, so they could.
Another lip.
Is
Well,
that gonna be a lip? No.
no, but it can be.
It could be, yeah. We would like it to be.
Yeah, we'll see.
Another one?
Well, Zero River could turn into a project. They don't have to follow the guidelines
Oh,
as
well,
before.
but that's just one house, right?
No, it's,
Oh, they're
that's
looking to do the whole subdivision. Mhm.
How many houses are in that subdivision?
11 proposed right now, but once the deed transfers over to the new owner, he or they can do whatever they want.
They can change it. Yeah. Okay,
Second,
Thank you.
I second.
all in favor? Aye.
I have about a minute or two if there's anything you want my,
Yeah, I do. I'm
Flag.
gonna jump around here for a second because I want you involved in this discussion. And that is gonna be item 11, which is town administrator's contract. And that more specifically is on here because the town administrator is by contract entitled to a $2,500 cash payment for a community outreach objective that we put in there. And, we were all involved, and I don't think I need to rehash that. And, I think it's probably suffice it to say that he's certainly met that objective.
Exceeded.
Yeah, and exceeded it. And so he's looking for approval of that. And in addition to that, I have been, working with Jason, but I've been around a long time. Okay, Jason's our 5th town administrator. He is. And by far, the most competent, comprehensive town administrator we've ever had, and probably a lot of other towns as well, as best as I can see it.
lucky to have you.
Yeah.
You're very lucky.
And some of the things that you've done in the really short time that you've been here, as I sit back and have a burger and a beer every once in a while, some of the stuff that you've done in the short time that you've been here is just, it blows my mind. I just, a free air conditioning system that was probably gonna cost us $75,000. The roof on the bandstand that got paid for through a grant that you procured, Drunk Grass Brook amongst, and there's a whole host of others that you've got tapped into. And it's not just my own opinion. I talked to some of the members of the other boards and everyone is giving you high fives. And along with that comes, and I live in corporate world. Corporate world pays out merit bonuses to staffers, typically in the month of December. Executives and directors, we get ours in March, but everybody else gets theirs in December. And we're counting pennies. We are. It's what it is, all right? But at the same time, I have for a long time said that we should not be making the numbers work on the back of the people that work for the town. And with that being said, I am asking our board to award you an additional $2,500 as a merit payment. So in addition to getting the $2,500 for this community outreach, we want to add $2,500 to it so that your bonus amount is now $5,000. I'm passing emails back and forth with Jake because with that additional $2,500, I wanted to take out of the reserve fund. And whether or not they voted on that last night, I'm not really sure because I can't tell from the communications I've had back and forth with Jake. But I don't know what to say. In the 6 months now that you and I have been working together as closely as we have been, you and I are communicating pretty much every day and sometimes more than that. And you've navigated through some really sticky issues with people that, quite frankly, I don't know that we could have had a better outcome. I don't know, aside from this, the grants and the staffing, Bryn and Andrew Wall and Sue Fain and all these people that are new to town hall. And it's really come together extremely well. Far better than my expectations, I think, anyway. And you and I have been around a little longer than Karen, but, we've been through some really difficult times here, Leah. We have.
No, I think that the ship has been righted
And so $2,500 bucks.
Fantastic
And
job.
so I'm asking the select board to approve by motion of the award of the $2,500 for the community outreach, which
is per contract.
baked into your, or not to use the word baked in, which is part of your salary line item. So there's not a bucket that we need to go get that money from. But the other $2,500 is going to come out of a reserve fund transfer. And yes, I did loop in advisory board, actually last Friday night when we had our little get together here. I had spent some time talking to advisory board about the desire to want to do that. I mean, it's just an expression of our appreciation. It's Christmas and,
You definitely go above and beyond, I think.
yeah. So I'd like to do that, comrades, and I'd like to ask if we could motion those two things through or discuss them and vote however you like.
Comrade?
I don't have much to discuss. Of course, I would love to pay you all the money in the world, because I think you certainly earn it here. And my one question is, you see the budget, you have to make sure you're comfortable with this. And I don't want you to be in an awkward place, and it's unusual. We have nobody watching us here tonight, which always makes it ironic. But if you are comfortable with that, I don't want to put you in a hard spot. Of course, I agree with Ron and Leah. I want you to have the money because I think you deserve it. It's not really a question, I guess. It's more just a statement to make sure you're okay with that. And I know our budget looks pretty bleak next year, so optics wise, I'm always, I know you're aware of what the future outcome could be too, so I guess get it while you can, but.
We do, the reserve fund is available, and that in total is a relatively small amount of money to take out of that reserve fund. And I think if I'm reading the emails right, the advisory board is on board, the finance committee advisory board is on board with it. They've approved it. They're waiting to hear from us before they execute the reserve fund transfer. We do have the money available to us. As bleak as it is, we need your expertise. We need your skill set. We need your people skills, as well as, the finance skills that you add. We need all of those to navigate through this. I've been here a long time. This is the worst shape we've ever been in. I've been doing this a long time. It's never been this bad. And, I'll be honest with you, I spoke at length with Mark Haddad a couple of weeks ago, and he's like singing your praises, my friend. And Mark is a very difficult guy to work with. And I've known Mark a long, long time. I chatted with him a couple of weeks ago, and
No offense, Mark.
no, but that sometimes you got to be that way in order to survive, right? It's kill or be killed. But Haddad's done a really good job. But it's been there now 15 years, 16 years. I've known him ever since he started with them. And he has said nothing but good things about him. He would have been our 6th town administrator, if you think about it.
Oh, that's right.
He was, right?
Filled in for like 9 months, yeah.
That's a sucky record for a town of this size. It's a sucky record.
Yeah.
So we have the motion in front of us too, so I'm not gonna let Jason talk me off the ledge of not making the motion, so. Which, though he may want to.
Jason?
So it looks like it's moved to approve the payment of the community outreach stipend in the amount of, it should be 2,500 or 5,000?
2,500 with an additional 2,500 to be paid as a merit salary bonus. And that money is to be drawn out of the reserve fund with the advisory board's approval.
What Ron said.
Yeah, so moved.
Second, all in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
You deserve it, so don't.
I just want to say I am very grateful, and I'm just grateful to be here. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to work with all of you.
We love having
and
you.
Staff. It's a great place, so thanks.
All right, are you on your way out?
I am. I'm gonna go be a punching bag next door.
All right, so we have a few other things.
You want cookie for the ride?
I had so many today.
So we have a few other things. Appointment of Andrew Wall to the Insurance Advisory Committee.
Can I ask one question before I go?
Yes.
Do you know if advisory was talking about a 3-year override last night?
The preference from advisory last night was a 3-year.
Okay. And do we have any ballpark scope on what that number is?
Slightly under 1.8 right now, but that's a moving target right now.
Okay.
3 year?
I'm not trying to railroad you, but I got that question from the school committee member.
Yeah.
So just so we have clarity, all right, that's a 1.8 number, okay? And it's going to amortize over 3 years.
Right.
Okay. but it's gonna be one vote.
Yes.
One vote.
First,
One vote.
the first year is about 825,000.
Yep, and then you shared those numbers with me.
Oh, yeah.
I had heard from one of the ground school committee member reps that, she's like, oh, you guys are talking about a 3-year now. I was like, that's news to me.
They're talking about because Groton is, and I think the advisory board thought better to align with the Groton or not, and then trying to play catch up over the 3-year period.
Okay.
That was the idea.
Cool. Just wanted to check that.
Yeah.
Because they're doing a 3-year.
Yeah. It is likely to be a little more than that, but right now, that's where we're at.
What's Groton asking for their
All
3-year?
right, thank you.
Almost 6.
Yeah, 6 point, no, I thought it was 6 point, well, I thought it was 6.7, but maybe
So
they
I think
changed.
it's a little under 6
All right, and then they're working it through, yeah. All right, so item 8, Andrew Wall.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I think he's
Yeah,
doing
he
well.
needs to sit on that board because
Yep.
it's part of his responsibilities.
So,
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I move to appoint Andrew Wall to the Insurance Advisory Committee for a term to expire on June 30th, 2024.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
Okay, next, item 9 is petition to the general court to change the name of Board of Selectmen to Select Board. I think this is really just a procedural
We've
matter.
already been
It
through
is.
this,
It is,
yeah.
yeah.
So I move to petition the general court to enact special legislation to change the name of the Board of Selectmen to Select Board as approved at the special town meeting on Monday, November 13th, 2023, under Article 3.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I just ask a quick question? After we do this, right, is it gonna take them like 3 years to assent to it? How do we get
Not
that?
not 3 years.
Well, I mean, if it's anything like the liquor
I don't
license,
think-
Oh, my, well, yeah.
I'll be old and gray if I'm not already there.
It won't take 3 years, but it will, it takes time to usher it through.
Probably 6 months.
So, yeah.
All right, item 10 is the adoption of a flag raising policy. Currently, we do not have a flag raising policy in place. And
I think it's a good idea
I-
to get one.
yeah, I think it's a good idea that we create one so that should anybody want to, we flew a
We did a Ukrainian.
Ukrainian flag. And we did that because it was such a high profile, really sad event for the world. We flew that flag, but I didn't, my reluctance, because I bought the flag, my reluctance in flying it was we were going to open the door to anybody else that wanted it. You know, it's
Yeah.
National Boat Day, let me fly my boat flag on the, right? And so since then, coming forward, we've kind of like just POW flag, American flag, that's it.
Yep.
Right? And so I read through this and this certainly puts us in a position where anybody who wants to fly a flag, we can say, go see that policy.
No, I agree. I think it's good. I think we need it, and it hopefully will prevent some controversy.
And so the only thing I want to add, Jason, is, we actually have a flag that flies at Lauderfield.
Yeah.
And so I want to add that on that list,
Will do.
okay, because that's
Oh, right, yeah.
part of that, right? So do we have a motion?
We do. I have to find it on here. Here it is, okay. I move to approve the policy on the display of flags on the town flagpoles as presented and amended, including Lauderfield.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
All right,
Okay, so flag policy is done.
you got minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to item 3, meeting minutes approval.
I motion to approve, but there were 2 sets?
I read those earlier, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, does he have a,
No, there isn't one on there.
September 26th and October 19th.
September 26th and October 19th, so it
I
would
move to
be,
accept September 26th, 2023, and October 19th, 2023 minutes
Yeah.
as written.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
Town administrators report, excuse me.
All right, I'll run through some of this quickly. So first thing is part of our goals for FY '24 was to try to create more training opportunities for employees and staff and volunteers. And so I did put out a survey to employees asking them to give some feedback on where their interest lies. And so we had a good response to it, which was great. And so I've narrowed it down to about 4. I reached out to Brian Fogg initially because I'm hoping he will do a open meeting law, public records, and conflict of interest training for
Okay.
everybody, for
Yeah.
employees, volunteers, especially going into what is definitely override year again, just to make sure we understand, what we should be doing, what we can do,
Yeah.
what we shouldn't be doing. So we have hopefully the 17th of January, which is a Wednesday, we're shooting to have that then. And then there were other training opportunities that Maya offers that I've been in touch with them about. And I emailed them this morning about some categories that we wanted to focus in on. So, and that was largely based on employee feedback. I think the 3 other categories were procurement. That was by far, people were most interested in learning more about municipal procurement process. Customer service, dealing with difficult people was one. And then Maya offers a training on growth mindset, which was the other high ranking one. So more to come on that. And, like boarding committee members, I'm planning to try to open it up to them too, if any volunteers want to participate. And probably surrounding communities too. So more to come. I've been working with Sue on finalizing a performance evaluation that I want approval from the board on.
So, yeah, that would be nice if that's standardized instead of doing the 360.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And I reached out to a listserv, an HR listserv, and I got a bunch of models. So where
Who's on this one?
listserv.
Oh, listserv.
Sorry. Sorry.
No,
An email listserv. So I received a bunch of models that we're using to create one that fits best for Dunstable.
Okay, great.
But before doing anything, you'll see it and approve it or consider it. NEMCOG project ideas, I discussed this a little earlier, but there were 5 project ideas that I sent to them. Union building, which we obviously want to continue through the next calendar year. The EV charging stations, the same. Master plan implementation and planning. So just assisting some of the new boards and committees we've created to help lend their technical expertise to that process. We submitted a solar assessment on public property last time. I did again this time, and then complete streets that we discussed earlier. So I think we're setting up a call next week to go over the complete streets portion, and then I don't know when, but we'll try to move all those forward with them. Online resident survey has over 100 responses now.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's great. And so that's going to be up through the end of the month. And
how does that come back in terms of a report, in terms of an analysis of the data?
Yeah.
Oh, really? So it's all.
You'll know.
Wow.
It's I'm almost obsessed with checking it to see the results. So yeah, we'll have a report that shows X% agree with this, X% don't agree with that.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. X% is satisfied with local government, X% is very satisfied, not satisfied, like we'll know all of that feedback that we have.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good.
Just in time for re-election, Ron.
Yeah.
So we had our first joint town school budget committee meeting on Tuesday night with Town of Groton School Committee officials, school district officials, and Dunstable with me and Jake there. Very, I thought, really good meeting, very positive and productive. And so we have another one scheduled for the 18th of December. And they've asked me and Mark to attend the school committee meeting next week on the 13th.
Oh, fantastic.
So that was really, it was a good meeting. I'm optimistic about that process. We had the volunteer appreciation night. I thought that was a great night. Woodward's Mill Dam, Leah, you know all about this. We are having some issues with
Yeah,
the phase 2 assessment.
Well, they were over there today excavating. What were they?
Yeah,
what was that?
so-
What was going on with that?
yeah, we're trying to dig out to see if they can assess what the cause of the sinkholes is without having to draw down the pond right now because we can't,
The gates
the gate's stuck. And it's gonna cost $5,000 to pump it, so we're hoping that maybe they could get some assessment done from above.
So they're trying to.
Something they would have to do anyway, but yeah.
They're trying to basically assess the condition of the dam without dewatering it. And hopefully Spencer I think they seemed optimistic that they'd be able to gather sufficient information, but until they're there and looking, we don't know. So
Yeah.
more to come on that, but that project's funded through CPC. If they're not able to gather sufficient information without dewatering, we may need to go back to CPC for additional funds to complete it.
That's great. I hope they do. I just don't know. Typically, I think that thing's gonna need to be dewatered and not gonna get into it.
Yeah.
I think there's some soils issues going on over there
Yeah, you might be right. And there is a lot, Dave Tully at our meeting was saying there's a lot of sentiment he thinks is part of it.
Pushing up against the
Yeah.
dam that's making it.
Yeah. All right, bandstand repairs, that phase of the project is complete. We still have a little over $30,000 in that earmark that we received.
So why don't we just go out for bid and have the railings done over, right?
Yep, so railings is a possibility. I wanted to talk to you about, I don't know if there's any lighting improvements.
Well, if we have the money, we could certainly take those out and put in LED halogens, right?
Yeah,
Those fixtures that are there have been, because the roof was leaking.
Yeah.
And those fixtures, I've been up there every year cleaning those things to try to make them work.
Yeah.
And, if we have this kind of cash, I would certainly have those lighting fixtures replaced with an LED halogen.
But
That's
can you
not
have them
what's
so
there right now.
can they be a soft light, not like super?
Well, you can,
LED.
on the LEDs, the newer ones have color selection, so 2,700, 3,500, 5,000 K, you can change that. You put them in, you don't like it, you
Yeah,
can
you're
move it
gonna want
around.
softer lighting up there, not that glare.
Those lights that are there now are a combination of just regular floodlights and circle, curly fluorescents that somebody bought at Walmart.
Yeah,
So you got the money, right? Well, you either use it or send it back, so I'd get the lighting replaced. I would certainly replace the railing. My ask is that the railing get replaced with cedar rather than pine.
okay,
Right? Because it'll match the roof
okay,
and you can let it weather, not
Yeah.
paint it.
okay.
And, I forgot the guy's name, Rainbow? The roofer.
Well, I just know Fox Painting, who
Fox Painting,
oversaw the
yeah.
problem, but they did hire a roofing company.
Rainbow
I
Roofing,
forget who they were.
yeah.
They did a nice job.
They did a fantastic job. They did. I would get them in the loop, and if you
Yeah.
get the money, no plastic, no PVC, put in because cedar will go 30 years, 40 years and that's really what you want.
Yeah.
You put plastic in there, just it's like putting an asphalt shingle roof on that thing, it would look awful.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, the
you
roof
got
looks
that
great.
kind of money, I would spend it to upgrade the lighting in there and then, put the railings in there and
Yeah.
just put in a cedar railing, it'll just really look nice.
Yeah, okay, all right. I was thinking maybe landscaping too. I don't know, landscaping, I'm so tired. I don't know. We have the money, so. I
You
don't know.
can, you'd need to, you might want to loop in Gene Phelan.
I was gonna say, and also maybe loop in memorials, because I don't know if, I know the benches are there specifically through Memorial Committee. They were like donated in family names.
Okay.
I don't know if the shrubbery is as well. I
Okay.
just don't want to be stepping on
I
toes with that.
don't know. Jean's a landscape architect.
Yeah, she's very.
Yeah. And so she can make a little sketch and say, put a rhododendron here, put an alfalfa plant over here. She'll lay all that out for you. Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
That doesn't get watered, does, we don't water that, right? There's no water.
No.
Union Building, they just sent over a survey.
All right, yeah,
That is
should be going live.
essentially ready to be published.
Yeah.
So I think the end of next week we'll publish that. And then we have a tentative date for a second public meeting on the 8th of February.
Right.
So more to
Yeah.
come on that. Trustees hired a new library director, Maureen Strauss, who's a Dunstable resident.
Does she live in Dunstable now?
Mm-hmm. Has for a while. Apparently.
Just for the people watching on YouTube, Economic Development Committee and Land Use Committee volunteer openings are still available. So if you're interested, please send us an email.
How are we advertising that other than this?
On the website, we emailed it out through our news and announcements, and we posted it on socials, and we're going to send it to neighbor.
All the new usual avenues.
Yeah. I just want to acknowledge the bandstand looks beautiful. Peggy Lynch
Yeah, it looks
did
great.
that all. It looks really nice. And then I just also want to acknowledge Tom Bacon, who did some work out here on the mechanical room.
Oh, yeah.
And he donated all the
That's
labor,
excellent.
So
Yeah.
materials. So that was very generous, both of them.
Thank you both.
Yeah. The Patriot Rec, Groton Groton Select Board voted to join. So now we're in the process of getting a modified IMA between the communities. I believe that towns in Ashby and Pepperell Select Boards need to vote to approve us entering the rec,
Okay.
but that process is moving forward.
But the IMA would be between us and Patriot.
Correct. Us and yes. Okay. The annual audit the auditors are here in the building. They've been here all week. So that process is happening. So far, so
Are there any surprises with that?
No, not yet. So far, so good. Community Compact IT grant, as I think did we talk about this already? But about $30,000 we received for disaster recovery and server replacement. So we're excited about that. And Umbrella is helping us implement that project. We got the grant contract, which is signed now, so we're gonna get that to them tomorrow. We should have the money within 45 days. And I already mentioned the school committee meeting, so there you have it.
Oh, excuse me, thank you.
You've been busy.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
All good, okay, a lot.
Yeah.
Old business, new business, no, I'll wait on my two new items until our next meeting. Yeah. You get anything?
No, I don't.
I think we're set. Motion to, you anything else?
I'm good.
Motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. All right.
Okay.